This is Mykonos. Yes, this is Mykonos, Greece. 33 square miles in the middle of the Aegean Sea, the crown princess of all Greek isles. And our quest, in a Faustian sort of way, is to find the lost soul of an island. From high above, Mykonos looks stunningly beautiful, perfect in its improvised simplicity. But does a closer look reveal another, darker side? Beauty versus the eye of the beholder, the camera. All right, let's talk beauty. There's Chora, a marvel of a town in blinding white, with cobblestone streets and charming fairy tale houses. It's love at first sight, with an insatiable desire to see more. Part of the joy of feasting your eyes is the food. It looks incredible, tastes heavenly, and is the one unbreakable link between the rich and the not-so-rich, as their taste buds sing the same tune in total sync.
You like it?
Excellent, thank you. Very good, yeah. Very good, yeah. Very good, yeah.
The best.
The once pristine beaches, a swimmer's paradise, now taken over by a powerful industry, which charges $150 a couple to simply lie in the sun. There's also the less charming aspect, which prompted one critic to write, Mykonos is a spectacularly ugly island. The barren landscape, its narrow, perilous roads winding through rocky terrain, past abandoned mines, illegal construction sites, and trash. Lots of trash. So how can anyone, even an incurable romantic, fall in love with this island? Well, it doesn't take much. It's as simple as watching the sun setting between the islands of Delos and Tinos. During high season, whether you fly here or take the boat, there's a hidden nightmare in store. Humanity in stupefying numbers, on arrival as well as departure. Then the next dilemma, taxi or bus, is met by the same answer. Nightmare. A long wait for cabs in the scorching sun, and if you do finally get one, lucky you, $40 for a 3-mile ride. Desperate times call for desperate measures. With a permanent population of 10,000, but also 2 million visitors annually, Mykonos is the envy of the rest of Greece. and a punching bag for the media, considered by many to be a certifiable land of lawlessness. According to a controversial article in Politico, written oddly enough by a Greek, Mykonos is not a Greek island, although geographically it is part of Greece. Sensationalism or truth, or perhaps a compromise between the two. Mykonos owes its name to a descendant of the god Apollo. From the Neolithic era to this day, the island has been the theater of mythical conflicts between Zeus and the Titans, cruel invasions, ruthless occupations, and fierce heroic naval battles against the Turks. At Little Venice, the iconic seaside park Caprice was a piece of Mykonoan history and a hangout that saw the crème de la crème of global celebrities and generations of Greek socialites. That was then. Nowadays, armies of new businessmen, reminiscent of aggressive colonialists, are descending upon Mykonos, disassembling every single local element which contributed to the island's success as a simple yet remarkable tourist destination. And that intangible quality once known as the soul of Mykonos. A soul, say opponents of the current mutation, which has been sold to the devil being a synonym for big money. The high-season social structure of the island consists of people in three distinct categories. VIPs, very important persons, VVIPs, very, very important persons, and VUPs, very unimportant persons. Mysteriously, as if by divine intervention, all three classifications somehow blend together, proving that the soul of Mykonos has a melting pot quality. Totally different species existing together, though not necessarily benefiting each other. A superstar of mythical proportions is Petros the Pelican, one of the many successors to the original Petros of 1958. He ignores selfie requests and rarely poses for snapshots. Despite his colossal following, he remains humble and even makes house calls. The city's cost to maintain Petros's lifestyle is $2,000 a year for fish. But then, he is a star after all. Mykonos has a mayor, in image and spirit very compatible with the current trend of progress. Costa Koukas, a former attorney, young, likable and ambitious, yet lost in a sea of red tape and legislation, twists and turns.
Η Μύκονος προφανώς είναι ελληνικό νησί. Η Μύκονος σήμερα είναι η μεγαλύτερη διαφήμιση της Ελλάδος στο εξωτερικό και είναι και ο μεγαλύτερος χρηματοδότης του ελληνικού κράτους και μέσα από όλα αυτά τα έσοδα τα οποία έχουμε στη Μύκονο μπορούν και καλύπτουμε συντάξεις σε όλη την Ελλάδα και μισθούς.
Beauty is in the eye of the account holder. Hundreds of millions have been invested in the island's opulent hotels and no less in its palatial villas. The result? Supreme luxury, comfort and top-notch service, qualities that apply to even much smaller and cheaper hotels and houses for rent. And the five-star hotels sell their opulence starting at $800 a day for the cheap rooms, and suites running as high as $5,000. Boutique hotels can be even more expensive, while villas have no price ceiling and can claim $20,000 per day for 16 bedrooms. As for just finding a place to stay, a small room in Chora rents for $100 per day.
Το χαμηλότερο ενοίκιο που πήραμε φέτος σε κράτηση ήταν 100 ευρώ την ημέρα για ένα στούντιο και το υψηλότερο ήταν 15.000 ευρώ τη μέρα για μια βίλα η οποία φιλοξενούσε 25 άτομα.
Οι Άραβες πληρώνουν πολύ μεγάλα ποσά, ξεκινούν από 3 εκατομμύρια και έχει φτάσει και αγορά μέχρι και 10 εκατομμύρια ευρώ για κατοικία πάνω στη θάλασσα. Οι τιμές κατοικιών την ημέρα στο νησί της Μυκόνου ξεκινούν για ένα σπίτι 3 δωματίων από 1.000 ευρώ την ημέρα και μπορούν να φτάσουν και μέχρι 30.000 ευρώ για μία βίλα παραθαλάσσια 8 ή 10 δωματίων.
And if the staggering cost for a patch of sand isn't impressive enough, head into town, where the overwhelming demand for space has caused rental prices to skyrocket. To lease a tiny 50 square meter store, owners are asking and miraculously receiving $350,000 upfront plus $7,000 a month, with 12 months rent due on signing. For the less demanding shopkeepers, staircases are for rent at $600 to $1,000 per month. For sale is the island's first and historic hotel, the Lito, right on the boardwalk. Despite its limited capacity of 21 rooms, the Greek government is auctioning it off with a starting price of $9 million. The opulence of five-star hotels and high-priced villas are a short distance away from this, a dilapidated hovel of unknown address. It's where illegal aliens, mainly Albanians, can rent a bed for $300 a month to live in its appallingly filthy conditions, suffering through the scorching summer months as they wait for winter and work when the tourists have left and construction starts up again. A tour of this hotel hell sends shivers down the spine. The Golden Triangle. Namos, Skorpios, and Principate. Resembling 21st century alchemists, these three entities have turned sand into pure gold, grossing up to $1 million a day, simply by offering five-star service day and night. And though their names attract bad press like magnets, nothing has impeded their phenomenal success and the new wave of investments they've brought to Mykonos. Namos has become a virtually independent state. In business since 2003, it is now the shining star of Mykonos finances. $3,000 sunbeds are available on Psarou, one of the island's most desirable beaches. A beach with true quality service, 400 highly trained personnel, and a superb yet overpriced cuisine. It has become a temple where big money is worshipped at a cost. The three owners decided to build a high-end outdoor mall, which brought a hint of huge scandal when the authorities discovered that they had fraudulently used a building permit for a septic tank to construct an underground garage for 200 vehicles. They were fined $3 million, a fine which is still outstanding.
Someone that comes to Namos expects to live the dream of the Namos experience. I must admit that there is a kind of people that they draw orgasm from spending money. The biggest tip I've ever got in this field is it's a big tip of 8,000 euros in cash.
Days after we left the island, Namos' license to use the Psarou beach was revoked, the result of building a sea platform without a permit. However, the very next day, all of Namos' expensive sunbeds were back on the beach, reinforcing the lawlessness of the land. The anticipated fine, if it is ever collected due to the lengthy court process, will be far less than 1 hour's gross revenue. The Namos phenomenon has emerged in other, equally successful businesses. Skorpios, the first beach bar owned by Germans, turns a high daily profit. If money talks, are the filthy rich good tippers? It would appear so. The management distributed close to $1 million in tips to the lucky staff. And while there is no definitive scandal here, one is brewing. The German owners were recently granted a permit to commercialize Ftelia, the last remaining public beach on the island. Ironically, that permit, which raised an uproar in the local community and the Greek press, was granted by a leftist minister of culture of a leftist government. Go figure. While we're at Ftelia, here's a pleasant dose of human generosity. Kids and adults alike spend part of their Sundays cleaning not just the beach, but also the sea, which sometimes reveals hidden treasures, an old motorbike, and who knows what else. Principote at Panormos is the third five-star beach bar on Mykonos. Meticulously designed, it, like its predecessors, has become a thorn of controversy for the local authorities. Environmentalists had previously voiced their anger over the demolition of natural sand dunes in order to make room for sunbeds. Yet this was done way back, before Principote was built. There's rising competition, though, which to many is not welcome. The co-owner of the brand new pool bar, Santana, was brutally assaulted and sent to the hospital days after the grand opening of his venue. For some, the assault is seen as a warning from competing businesses to get out.
Τεράστια κόντρα ανάμεσα σε όλες τις επιχειρήσεις, φοβερός ανταγωνισμός, διότι όλοι θέλουν να αρπάξουν ένα κομμάτι από την πίτα. Δέχομαι πολλές φορές τηλεφωνήματα από μυκονιάτες επιχειρηματίες, από τοπικούς φορείς, οι οποίοι δεν θέλουν να γράφω κάποια πράγματα τα οποία κατά την άποψή τους δυσφημούν το νησί. Δεν σου κρύβω ότι έχω δεχτεί και απειλές.
Όχι, δεν υπάρχει πόλεμος πάνω στην άμμο. Υπάρχουν επιχειρηματίες οι οποίοι έχουν δραστηριοποιηθεί πριν από κάποιους άλλους επάνω στο νησί και υπάρχουν νέοι επιχειρηματίες οι οποίοι, άλλοι με σωστό τρόπο, άλλοι με λίγο πιο επιθετικό τρόπο, προσπαθούν να εδραιωθούν στο νησί, στη Μύκονο.
There is a war. There are new capitals that have come in the island and there is a new environment, business environment, ethical environment, cultural environment, new habits, new ethics in Mykonos the last 2 years.
The closest relationship between water and champagne is found in the craziest and priciest activity of the rich and not so famous, a shower. Yes, but who needs water? These folks prefer to be showered with champagne. If you're not familiar with the ritual, you need some 20 acquaintances, preferably intoxicated, and no less than 40 bottles of expensive Moet, Dom, or Cristal, vigorously shaken, not stirred. For the rich and not so famous, a champagne shower is the shortcut to a fleeting 10-minute illusion of fame. But what about the rich and very famous? A few basketball players from the US Olympic team compete in the weird bubbly decathlon, while at the same time showing the world's youth how to behave modestly. Uh-huh. Another famous athlete who became a legend, Usain Bolt, couldn't resist the temptation either. He asked for it, and he got it. A cataclysm of champagne. Mr. Bolt also got stuck with the check, this time with no support from his friends. $95,000.
Huge champagne showers that happened at Namos was quite recently. Someone wanted to celebrate his 48 years, so he did open 48 bottles of premium champagne just for the sake of showering and not to taste the good quality of the champagne. That was 32,000 euros.
Εγώ δεν κάνω sour champagnes. Δεν αφήνω sour champagne στο μαγαζί. Μου ζητάνε και λέω όχι. Γιατί δεν το κάνω? Γιατί το έχει κάνει το Νάμος πρώτα. Στο δικό μου κατάστημα η πιο ακριβή φιάλη υνοπνεύματος είναι στα 117.000 ευρώ.
After a night of torrential outpouring of champagne, of which not a single drop was swallowed, the empties rest peacefully, like silent witnesses of human vanity, boredom, or is it just human emptiness? A question to be answered by the locals in the nearby taverna who, with gentle clicking of tongues, relish their glasses of the simplest, cheapest Greek wines. P.S. So far, no billionaire visiting Mykonos has attempted to sacrifice a bottle of Coup de Diamant for his deluxe personal hygiene. After all, at over $2 million a bottle, it does make for a rather pricey bidet. Let's dissect the nouveau riche lifestyle, frequently mimicked by the non-rich and far from famous. Is a $6,000 cabana at Namos a necessity or is it vanity? And why would ordinary folks pay $400 for 2 sunbeds and a basic lunch, if not for the selfie on Instagram to make the common mortals back home jealous?
Namos is a brand that you can brag about it in your friends. A lot of customers, a lot of tourists, they are coming there to make a selfie, to go back home and say to the social media that I was there.
Όλοι μας έχουμε μέσα μία δόση vanity και εγώ έχω μια δόση vanity και ο δίπλα έχει μια δόση vanity. Το θέμα είναι πόσο αυτή είναι η κατευθυντήρια οδός και πόσο όχι. Έχουμε όλοι μια μετεοδοξία μέσα μας.
So, what compels this eclectic horde of high rollers to party around the clock, 24/7? Perhaps it's a neurotic need to compress time, condensing pleasure into, you know, the old too many eggs in a small basket theorem. Or is it obsessive defiancy, the compulsion to differ from the norm, the accepted standards of their hypocritical society? In a word, escapism, sprinkled with a few ephemeral gleaming flakes of romance. The successful and wealthy taking a brief intermission, psychologically preparing for reality, for what's awaiting them, the self-entrapment, the unrelenting pressure for more success, more fame, more money. The constantly changing society of Mykonos is an example of Durkheim's theory of anomie, a condition of instability resulting from a breakdown of standards and values. Seems complex? It's not. It's human. And in layman's terms, give him a break. If you make the mistake of walking into the seemingly humble island mini-market, you'll be in for a shock at the sights and the sounds. Oh, come on! A DJ on a day and night shift? And next to the 20-cent bottles of water, there's the slightly more expensive beverage, champagne, reasonably priced at close to $20,000 a bottle? This is not a jewelry store. It's the local butcher shop, equally extravagant, where beef costs $250 a kilogram. And to top off the island's obsession with five-star amenities, here are the old port's public restrooms, though there is nothing public about them. They are owned and operated by the neighboring Jackie O Bar. Here you can relieve yourself while your cash is being relieved by €1. Oh, you do get a voucher, something highly unusual by Greek tax standards. For richer or for poorer, weddings are also a powerful industry here. For starters, a so-called proper wedding is a $100,000 to $5 million affair. Such big production events are staged on the beach or on floating platforms, decorated with thousands of roses and other exotic flowers. Dozens of private jets cram the small airport as helicopters and drones buzz over the proceedings. And you're not on the guest list unless you're on Forbes 500. These are the Fellini-esque but also kitsch weddings of the mega-rich, the loud indiscretion of wealth. All of these elements confirm Mykonos' official title as a show-off island. Or if you prefer, the chief party island of the super-rich. A world away from this success, where the wealthy pour champagne over each other then flood social media with narcissistic tales of their cultural achievements, could be a typical Greek wedding. No Balenciagas on display, just lots of warmth, genuine laughter, improvised dancing, a few hundred clay plates, cheap wine, and a wholehearted reality that doesn't bite, but caresses both the ear and the heart with the earthy and emotional sounds of a bouzouki on an unforgettable night by the windmills. While the elites blow their money on pleasures, legal or otherwise, there are those here who live routine lives, struggling to make ends meet, hoping for a better tomorrow, which for most will never come. There's a small gypsy camp at the harbor, right next to the expensive speedboats. There is fish in the water for the boy and mundane chores for the mother. Old men sell vegetables at a makeshift bazaar.
Δουλεύω και ψόφω στην πείνα.
Εδώ έχω μεγαλώσει, εδώ είναι οι φίλοι μου. Όλα τέλεια, όλα τέλεια. Καταπληκτικοί άνθρωποι, δεν έχω παράπονο από κανέναν. Μοναχικός λύκος είμαι εγώ, να ξέρεις.
Το χρήμα μπήκε στις τσέπες πολλών ανθρώπων εδώ στη Μύκονο, αλλά δεν είχαν την καλλιέργεια να το διαχειριστούν. το χρήμα τη χάλασε. Ήρθε πολύ χρήμα και όπου έχετε χρήμα ακολουθεί και όλο το παρελκόμενο του.
Φταίνε οι Μυκονιάτες, αλλά και εγώ άμα είχα ένα ακίνητο και μου δίνανε κάποια εκατομμύρια αέρα και μεγάλα ενοίκια, και εγώ θα είχα κάνει αυτό το πράγμα.
The local playground is devoid of children, as if the 1,800 kids here never existed. Some older kids, though, are staging a demonstration, demanding better education. The richest island in the country has the poorest school. Ironically, the central government, instead of a better school, is imposing on Mykonos a casino, which will be licensed to provide instant loans up to 50,000 euros for compulsive gamblers. Bummer. A mere 50 feet from the luxurious Namos, ordinary people pay ordinary prices to enjoy sun and sea. Lying on ordinary sunbeds and surrounded by ordinary peddlers, who are mainly Africans, their goods also appealing to the Namos clientele. So it's not unusual to see the filthy rich strolling casually through this section of common mortals to quickly and as inconspicuously as possible buy a fake Louis Vuitton.
Ήρθαμε εδώ για Μύκονος για να ψάξουμε δουλειά, για να δουλεύουμε, για να βγάλουμε μεροκάματο και να κάνουμε για τη ζωή μου. Εκεί που μένουμε στη Θεσσαλονίκη, γιατί έχω σπίτι εκεί και εντάξει, τίποτα. Όλη την ημέρα μπορείς να βγάλεις 10 ευρώ, 15 ευρώ για φαγητά.
Mykonos at night, a microcosm of similar environment but diverse fates, redefining the Babel axiom, the elite of the Golden Triangle. The infinitely walking crowds of the miniature town. The cruise tribe with a must-see all-in-one night fixation. The tireless sea of dancing bodies. And some lonesome and tired bodies.
And of course, there's a plethora of recognizable brands displayed on white walls and humble structures. Neighboring souvlaki and gyros parlors maintain a strong symbiotic relationship with the invading high-end merchants, as symbiotic as Mykonos itself has been with any kind of invasion. Trends here are like waves on the beach. They sweep in, stay briefly, then are gone. In the recent past, another wave swept the island when Mykonos became a favored vacation spot for the gay and lesbian community. Naturally, the Puritans protested and screamed, but this wave, like others before it, didn't last. And neither will the new wave, the Arabs. To the dismay of the locally born and bred donkeys, the camels came. 2 camels, to be precise. Supposedly flown in from the desert sands to the 5-star sands of Namos, all for an Arabian-themed night. Their arrival not only upset the Mykonian donkeys, but also the local RSPCA, which reported the illegal importation of the 2 animals as well as their illegal use as performers. The cops didn't make any camel arrests.
Στην παραλία της Μυκόνου, όταν βλέπεις 2 καμήλες, αντιλαμβάνεσαι ότι μπορεί να υπάρχει από πίσω ένας έξυπνος επιχειρηματίας, ο οποίος προκειμένου να ικανοποιήσει τους πελάτες του, είναι ικανός να κάνει τα πάντα.
For that one evening, guests, metaphorically speaking, dished out $13,000 per table, plus tip. The establishment's take that night was over $2 million, but for one wealthy guest, the cost for attending was over $500,000. Well-informed conmen had attained the guest list and, knowing that the man's entire family would be partying, paid a visit to their rented villa and relieved them of jewelry and cash. To date, they haven't been arrested. Hence the need for security. With burglaries rising and a police force of only 24, the bodyguard population of the island rose to 500, and protection is now sold not only to VVIPs, clubs, restaurants and beach bars, but also to the government itself. Even the municipal building and the police station are guarded by private security firms.
Ο Δήμος της Μυκόνου όλους τους κοινόχρηστους, τους δημόκινους χώρους, αλλά και όλα τα δημοτικά κτίρια, και προκειμένου να συνδράμει την αστυνομία, ετησίως κάνει μία σύμβαση με μία εταιρεία security προκειμένου να φυλάσσονται οι χώροι. Ναι.
A little strange that the city of Mykonos chose to contract the same security company that was involved in a tragic incident, where one of its employees, a 25-year-old bodyguard, got into a fight with a patron outside of a beach bar. The patron, Vangelis Pepos, a young Cypriot, ended up with severe brain injuries and remains in a vegetative state in a special facility in Israel. There's so much security that many people have started to feel insecure, resulting in some folks taking the law into their own hands, arresting and beating a suspect for drug trafficking.
Η δουλειά των bodyguard αυξήθηκε διότι είχαν κάποια κρούσματα τα τελευταία έτη, ληστείες, κοσμήματα, χάνανε γιατί προσέχαν πιο πολύ να διασκεδάσουν και δεν προσέχαν την προσωπική τους ασφάλεια. Και η δουλειά των bodyguard ανέβηκε. Οι εταιρείες security εξειδικευμένες, πιστοποιημένες, ανέβηκε γιατί είχαν τέτοια κρούσματα.
If we take statistics, the few burglaries that happen on the island comparing to other islands that have way lower statistics than Mykonos, I think that the situation is under control and acceptable.
Στα σπίτια τα δικά μας φέτος οι κλοπές κυμάνθηκαν περίπου στις 50 με 100.000 ευρώ.
Η εγκληματικότητα στη Μύκονο, κατά τη γνώμη μου, είναι ήπιας μορφής. Δεν έχουμε εγκληματικότητα σκληρής μορφής. Δεν έχουμε απαγωγές, δεν έχουμε δολοφονίες, δεν έχουμε ληστείες. Υπάρχουν κάποιες κλοπές και αντιμετωπίζονται.
The crime rate, though minimal, still annoys the locals. But considering that the numbers apply to 2 million tourists, a few burglaries and a dozen arrests are but a breeze. Should the visitor feel safe? Of course, unless the visitor gets drunk and picks a fight. Relevant safety charts on the web go as follows. This is the portrait of a killer. In plain English, the ATV, an all-terrain vehicle. Known on the island as huruna, a term for a female pig, it has been blamed for dozens of serious accidents and many unregistered and unrecorded deaths. But is it really to blame? They keep saying guns don't kill people, people kill people, and to paraphrase it, these machines don't kill people, people kill themselves. Tourists find the ATVs an economic, convenient means of transportation. They forget that ATVs are designed solely for rough terrains and careful driving. So they take the vehicles onto the winding asphalt roads, where they speed, skid, tumble, and get killed. Speaking of ATV safety, here's our buddy Russell on a local huruna in support of the helmet haters. Underfunded and understaffed, the local police department is in dismal shape. Since 2006, the police have racked up over $40,000 in unpaid fuel bills to local gas stations just to keep their squad cars running. And perhaps because the rent hasn't been paid, the cops are being evicted from the station, the small house they've occupied for years. Blame the central government in Athens for that. However, the flag is still flying, though not so proudly in its present condition. The backlot, full of vehicles, motorbikes, construction equipment, and huge cement mixers impounded from criminals. A graveyard of rust. What justifies the lawlessness label? Blatant corruption, which here is seen as a way of life. At nearby Syros, city ordinance employees were found with $5 million in their personal bank accounts. 2 directors were put on trial, found guilty, convicted to 21 years in jail, and are currently doing time. 2 Mykonos city ordinance directors were recently arrested and prosecuted unsuccessfully. One of them returned to his post, but was later fired by the mayor. Confusion led to more confusion. City Ordnance Services ceased operation in Mykonos, encouraging more illegal construction and putting 700 open cases on ice. Demolition of illegal structures is a thing of the past. Now, law-defying individuals are building 3-story hotels against the strict 2-story code, which is meant to keep the island's traditional beauty intact.
Εσείς όπως βλέπετε τα σπίτια παλιά που είναι μισογκρεμισμένα, έχουν καμία σχέση με αυτά τα οποία χτίζονται τώρα? Είχε πουθενά η Μύκονος ζαμαρίες, είχε πουθενά η Μύκονος ανοίγματα τρίμετρα?
Δεν υπάρχουν οι τοπικές αρχές εκεί για να ελέγξουν το μέγεθος των παρανομιών. Έχουμε κρούσματα διαφθοράς. Έχουν συλληφθεί υπάλληλοι επειδή έχουν υπογράψει στο παρελθόν για πάρα πολλά λεφτά συνέχιση εργασιών σε παράνομες οικοδομές. Οπότε η πρώτη εικόνα που μπορείς εύκολα να δεις, δηλαδή αν κόβει και λίγο το μάτι σου, είναι πολεοδομικές αυθαιρεσίες.
A joke of a health system. Yes, this is the island's main hospital. And yes, there is only one ambulance. For those with a good insurance, there's always the private hospital.
Έχουμε αρκετούς ξυλοδαρμούς επίσης. Έχουμε δυστυχώς περιστατικά μετά από χρήση ναρκωτικών ουσιών και υψηλά επίπεδα αλκοολισμού. Είναι εντυπωσιακό σε ορισμένες περιπτώσεις ασθενείς, ξένοι, αλλοδαποί, τουρίστες αρνούνται ακόμα και την αγωγή για ένα κρυολόγημα προκειμένου να έχουν τη δυνατότητα να πιούν και όχι να πάρουν τα αντιβιωτικά, παραδείγματος χάρη.
Hailing a taxi in Mykonos requires a stuntman's skills. With only 30 cabs available and the demand for rides insanely high, the cabbies are writing and enforcing their own laws. Most are polite, but some are arrogant and rude, and some are even downright hostile. This cabbie backed into the ATV of 2 English girls, and when they protested politely, he got out of his car, grabbed the ATV keys, and threw them in the nearby field. The cabbie was never arrested or prosecuted. You know, leniency.
What happened?
He rear-ended us, like he beat us with his car, and then he took the key out of my friend's bike and threw it.
But why?
I don't know, did you see him throw it?
There are, of course, the hustlers, the cons, and the cheaters here as well. So, with the help of 2 members of our crew, we went undercover.
You're free?
Posing as tourists, they ask a cabbie to drive them to a destination 2 miles away. Does the cab have a meter? Is it even running? Watch the conversation the cabbie has with one of his colleagues on the phone, and watch the subtitles.
Εγώ είχα μονίδι κλείνει τραφή που ελεγχόμαι. Έτρωγα και τους Έλληνες. Δηλαδή εγώ με το κανάλι, όταν το δούλεψα κατά 2 φορές για να πάω αεροδρόμιο, Γιώργο, να κάνω το 12 τα βραδινά, έπαιρνα τα κουφά. Έκανα τα κουφά. Έχεις κάνει κανένα 700. Και έχεις ακόμη να τα κάνεις 7-7,5 λεπτά. Γιατί έχει 2 αεροπλάνα εκεί.
The shortage of taxis has created a peculiar underground economy. Unlicensed cabs that jam customers into every inch of available space. Sure, it's illegal, but for the sake of convenience and, you know, leniency. Bright lights, small city, pitch black narrow roads, and the public lighting, a midsummer's nightmare. Driving at night can be a scary challenge. Unemployment 0. During peak season, local businesses import an international workforce of over 5,000. Question: how do you house the population of a small town on an island already sold out at high prices? Favelas Greek style. Containers seen here at Kalolivadi are converted to bedrooms, housing 4, 6, or 8 people who must use the makeshift camouflaged toilets located in the middle of the field. Not a pretty sight. However, the containers are air-conditioned and provide for the basic hygienic needs of the workers. And when a busboy in Mykonos can make $4,000 a month while living in a rent-free container, that's money in the pocket. Mykonos is surrounded by azure waters, but the water on the island itself is a thorn in the local government's eye. The only reservoir is getting drier every year, though it only supplies the town. All of the mansions, villas, and hotels outside the perimeter must buy expensive desalinated water, good only for bathing. Waste, generated by millions of people in a short period of time, created this hellish dump. One far too small to handle all of the trash produced daily. So it's normal for the island's excess waste to be loaded into containers and shipped to the mainland, where it has a decent burial. Fire. What if an incident like this had happened on land? Mykonos until lately didn't have a fire department or possess a single fire engine, and the few qualified firemen, along with some basic firefighting equipment, just arrived, but serve only the airport. So if one of the high-priced villas goes up in flames, it will likely burn to the ground. In the case of this speedboat, though, the Coast Guard took care of the rescue. Built in the 1890s, this historic lighthouse, once the tallest and brightest in the Aegean, fell into despair. But after decades of neglect, it has now been restored to its original beauty, again standing proudly atop its northern hill. Only a tiny percentage of visitors who come to marvel at the windmills or chase the pelican for a selfie will ever see these rare, abandoned mines, remnants of a time when the locals had to work hard for their bread and olives. A reminder of the modern world's propensity to abandon the past and the cry for help from the new generation of Mykonians to preserve a piece of their history. On the other hand, it would also make a great location for a horror movie, unless, of course, some enterprising businessman turns the site into a macabre but stunning nightclub. For now, however, the only visitors here are the howling winds. The jewel of jewels, the Vanity Museum. So apropos for this island. Modern, impressive, and replete with ancient treasures, this is, without question, the most significant cultural achievement on Mykonos. Visitors are mesmerized by the stunning collection of millennia-old gold, jewels, and other precious artifacts. Yet, only 2% of the locals have ever been here. The five-star treatment reserved for the camels does not apply to the island's cultural heritage. A look inside the Folklore Museum shows utter neglect, mold, disarray, and guess who? Yes, that's Petros, the island's notorious pelican, preserved for posterity by a famous taxidermist. Unfortunately, some infamous museum worker had the brilliant idea to give Petros a few coats of white acrylic paint. Luckily, it was a semi-gloss finish. If they ever created a museum for the paradox, this event would surely be among its proudest exhibits. Mykonos, an island with practically no road network, is hosting a rally. Not just any rally, but a blatant display of horsepower and deep pockets. The celebrities in this case are the cars. When in Mykonos, don't do like the Mykonians do, for the locals are not in awe of the island's most stunning show, which to visitors is a must-see ritual. It's called the sunset, and it's presented once a day in a spectacular, bigger than IMAX system, 180 degrees. Hundreds of sun worshippers, multinational aficionados gather here, ready for the breathtaking main attraction. If it wasn't for the selfie sticks, one could say that romance is about to triumph, enhanced by the presence of a lovely ethereal voice. But okay, I'll shut up and let you enjoy. A different spot where romance also rules is Little Venice. Here, more crowds have the privilege of a great vantage point. You can say that the Mykonos sun, in its daily yet infinite performances, outnumbers both sea and sand in box office grosses. Another jewel, this one man-made, is the open-air cinema Mando, a romantic garden unknown to most, adored by many, where an evening of adventure starts at the restaurant and extends to the on-screen action. It's number 6 on the list of the best open-air movie theaters in the world.
I was born in cinema. Since I remember my life, I'm in cinema business or in cinema theaters, watching movies, stealing money from my mother to go to watch a movie. This is my life. I cannot imagine myself out of cinema.
If you're set for a quiet night on the town, you won't be disappointed. Nighttime, and one more ritual begins. The endless stroll down Matoyania, a 2-mile stretch where, if one loves dense crowds combined with spirited attempts at sightseeing, one can really savor the best of both. Push, shove, squeeze, smile, flirt, party, touch, be touched, and yes, even grope, since sexual harassment laws do not exactly apply here. Small, private clubs that charge $1,000 just to reserve a table compete head-to-head with the wide-open, classic spots like the Scandinavian Bar. The younger, less wealthy, but more aggressive crowds launch a 1,000,000-decibel assault at Paradiso or Tropicana. Mykonos is an eternal party, a symphony of the body beautiful, a sea of unchoreographed yet synchronized movement, which starts early in the afternoon and doesn't end before daybreak. Presiding here is the high priest of EDM, Steve Aoki. Mercilessly hit by strobes, drowned by smoke, sprayed with champagne, splattered with cake, bombarded by lethal audio and glistening in their own sweat, people dance to express their passion or to diffuse some anger. They also dance to simply show off. A rather pagan celebration, almost tribal, and definitely narcissistic. It's as if the ancient god of ritual madness, Dionysus, never left the island. The question, does Mykonos attract narcissists or does it create them, is being answered by a zillion selfies from those moment hunters and their inseparable smartphones. This rock and roll choreography, spiked by huge quantities of alcohol, goes the rest: sex and drugs. For alcohol, there are no restrictions. Any age can be served without limitation. Any age can drink a lot without limitation. In this kingdom of narcissistic pleasures, cocaine is the queen. Though not sold within the clubs themselves, the powder is easy to procure just a few feet from their front doors. And while there have been a few arrests of small-time dealers where a mere 150 grams were seized, the network of large-scale traffickers remains untouched.
Η κοκαίνη είναι το αγαπημένο ναρκωτικό της Μυκόνου. Βέβαια, δεν υπάρχει η ανάλογη αστυνομική δύναμη για να μπορέσει να βρει αυτούς τους ανθρώπους οι οποίοι προμηθεύουν το νησί με μεγάλες ποσότητες κοκαίνης. Ή δεν θέλουν να τους βρουν. Και τι εννοώ με αυτό? Ενδεχομένως κάποιοι να κάνουν και τα στραβά τα μάτια για να περνούν αυτές οι ποσότητες μέσα στο νησί.
Πολλοί όταν έρχονται με τα δικά τους τα σκάφη φέρουν και οι ίδιοι. Είναι το πιο πιθανό. Άλλοι προσπαθούν να βρουν από κάπου εδώ. Χρήματα δεν τους απασχολούν. Οπότε γι' αυτό είναι δόκιμο, δηλαδή ευδοκιμεί αυτό το σπορ.
Συνήθως η αγοροπολισία γίνεται μέσα στο μαγαζί. Τα ναρκωτικά αλλάζουν χέρια στο άψες βίσε. Δεν καταλαβαίνεις πότε ο σερβιτόρος μπορεί να σου δώσει ένα φιξάκι κοκαίνης. Δεν πρόκειται εσύ να το δεις μπροστά στα μάτια σου να συμβαίνει αυτό.
Oddly enough, those urban legends about drug trafficking prove to be far more than legends. Following a hot pursuit and shootout on the open seas, the Coast Guard seized nearly 2 tons of cannabis and arrested 11 men. One of them, the alleged leader, happened to be the owner of a restaurant on Mykonos. No one had suspected what he was really cooking up. Yes, pun intended, maliciously. Finally, for sex, ask the experts, the local kiosk owner.
Κατά μέσο όρο, μπορώ να πω γύρω στα 20-25 κουτιά τη μέρα.
Meanwhile, in a blatantly rude intrusion into the high rollers' never-ending bacchanalia, some traditional islanders have the audacity to do the unthinkable. Bringing a stroke of couleur locale to the scene by dancing a hasapiko on the boardwalk, en masse, much to the delight of tourists and utter dismay of the rave, hip-hop, and R&B fanatics. A handful of expats live, love, and prosper in the heart of the local community, which has welcomed them and accepted them as their own. Having lived here for decades, they can't help but feeling nostalgic for the old days and the old Mykonos.
I was coming on holiday on my own, and I wanted a place that had lots of young people that I could meet, because I was much younger then. It was 44 years ago now. And I wanted to meet people, and I did. And I got married to one of them, and I stayed. I remember Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor used to pull in just over here with their yacht and get off and come and rave up the night in Ramezzo here. And then they'd take a stroll along the waterfront before breakfast, and nobody would bother them. They were just left alone. It wasn't this great stardom thing and can I have your autograph? And
ξεκίνησε και έρχονταν ο Νάσης, ο Νίαρχος, η Μάγια, η Σωράγια και αρχίνησε μια κίνηση όμορφη και ωραία. Μετά αρχίνησε τσούκου τσούκου και αρχίνησαν και έρχονταν κανένα κότερο, κανένα βαπόρι, μια φορά την εβδομάδα, όχι πολύ.
Εγώ θυμάμαι τον Ωνάση που ερχόταν στην παραλία και με ένα σορτσάκι εξεπόλυτος και έπαιρνε ούζα με τους ψαράδες. Αυτή ήταν η μποέμ τύπη για το νησί και προσφέρανε στο νησί. Όλοι αυτοί τώρα είναι κουραφέξαλα.
Αλλά η τωρινή ζωή που έχουν έρθει, όλοι οι πόστες λένε, που έχουν μαύρο χρήμα και παίρνουν τα καλά μαγαζιά και όλα, η Μύκονο δεν μ' αρέσει έτσι.
Και όλοι προτιμάνε την εποχή που ήταν νέοι. Αυτή ήταν δηλαδή η εποχή της ακμής. Αλλά μην λέμε ότι δεν είναι ωραία και τώρα η Μύκονος. Δηλαδή με λίγες έτσι υπάρχουν κρυφές γωνιές που υπάρχουν για να τις ανακαλύψει κάποιος.
Nostalgia is a byproduct of too much modernity. Once upon a time in Mykonos. The rumored age of innocence, when the island was indeed Greek, although with a Spartan lifestyle. Chora, the capital, was not exactly postcard material. Population, a mere 3,001 pelican, salvaged by a local fisherman and named Petros, destined to become the community's first international celebrity, featured in thousands of photographs long before the age of selfies, and who was even present at the welcoming ceremonies for Jackie Kennedy. Jackie later sent a couple of female companions to enrich Petros' bachelor life. The now famous windmills were then just remnants of an imaginary battle with Don Quixote, where Don Quixote won. The church of Panagia Paraportiani, still in its infant stage. The celebrated Little Venice, just a run-down seaside neighborhood. The famous beaches, empty and bare. Life on the island, simple, rudimentary. The average house, a bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom in one. The average mom-and-pop store, the shoe shop. No worries, but lots of worry beads. The very basic butcher. The quintessential liquor store with all the bells and whistles. Even a hair salon, which at times could be in the living room. Fishing and trading. Reaching new heights. Going for cash to the local bank. Working hard in a home factory. Taking a siesta. Raising kids who one day would become seamen. Hanging out with the guys. Taking a siesta. Selling land for big bucks. Sipping a Turkish coffee before it was renamed Greek coffee. A swim, but not far from home. Taking a siesta. They even had not just one, but 2 movie theaters. And the nightlife. Quiet. Awfully quiet. The tranquility interrupted only by loud snoring from an open window. Donkeys were the main means of transportation and trade, while a bus and a few taxis were considered luxuries reserved for the tourists, thus no big demand for fuel. Some famous personalities were even stranded there during the military coup of April 1967. Recognize them? It's Paul Newman and his wife, Joan Woodward. Sunsets came and went unnoticed, until the sunset itself became a tourist attraction. And they came. 2 windmills and a lot of churches later. Humble abodes evolved into nice homes and soon into luxury villas. A new hotel brought the cosmopolitan breeze with lots of cement. And even more tourists arrived when Aristotle Onassis, owner of Olympic Airways, built a tiny airport, one that hasn't grown much in the last 50 years. It wasn't until the 70s that Piero's gay bar changed the sober mood to one of wild partying. And then, like flipping a switch, Mykonos became a rival to Fire Island, a place of total freedom, nude beaches, the land of anything goes. And the new, old Mykonos was born. Big money has infected far more than the island's outward appearance. The devil has made a pact with the church. The village of Anomera, on a Sunday morning. Though locals can still attend Mass, light candles and pray free of charge, the visitor, fondly called the foreigner, must pay €1 just to enter the church. First, there was pay-per-view. Now, there's pay to pray. At a different location, the Church of St. George, the selling of religious souvenirs made headlines when a huge display of items for sale was put up inside the church, which of course only raised eyebrows with the locals. The outcry in the press was such that the church was forced to remove the merchandise and return to doing God's business as usual. But God works in mysterious ways. When recently transferred firemen were stashed in containers or slept on the floor, the Paleokastro Monastery, which has remained empty and unattended for years, provided shelter to these unfortunate government employees who opted to rent a monk's cell for $300 a month. And though our reliable sources could not be validated by our covert autopsy, we did find that while the monastery doors were carelessly left open to potential looters, every single cell within was meticulously locked. That was at 10:20 in the morning, when these public servants should have already been at work. However, a second visit found that, though the monastery was locked up, there were cars parked up front, somehow confirming our information. But the church isn't concerned with petty cash, as its colossal real estate holdings bring in the serious money. One of the church's properties at the spectacular beach of Ya was leased for $1.2 million to Massimo Cirillo, famous for his Formula One events and his chain of high-end restaurants. In fact, his newest eatery now rests peacefully on Greek Orthodox land. Speaking of God and religion, the island is home to 600 churches, most found in the middle of nowhere. People will build a small church as a tama, an offering. There are also others who build churches just to get electricity for a house constructed illegally in a no-housing zone. And for the faithful, as well as the crook who's in a rush, there's a flourishing industry that provides pre-built churches. Ah, the infamous Mykonos wind. Dreaded by most, but prayed for by surfers, seasoned and amateurs alike. The novices bringing to mind the old proverb, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. And again. And again. And again. No cosmopolitan island would be complete without its own TV channel. And so Mykonos Live TV was born, broadcasting over the web, this one-man operation discreetly, or in some cases not so discreetly, broadcasts an obsessive collection of ifs and/or buts, preferably but not always in bikinis. Behind the tiny camera, you'll find the island's one and only resident paparazzo, Petros Nazos.
Πολύ λίγοι δείχνουν έτσι δυσαρέσκεια. Από εκεί και πέρα ο Ντικάπριο, ας πούμε, ο οποίος ήταν όλες τις ημέρες με μια κουκούλα, θεωρώ ότι ένιωθε ένα άγχος για τους παπαράτσι αλλά και για τον κόσμο. Είχε απαγορεύσει και selfie και από θαυμαστές να τον προσεγγίσουν. Είχε φέρει 3 σωματοφύλακες που πραγματικά δεν αφήναν κουνούπι να περάσει. Παρ' όλα αυτά, εγώ βρήκα μια φίλη μου, έβαλα την κάμερα μέσα στα μαλλιά της και πήγα εκεί που έτρωγε και έκανα το βίντεο που πάντα ήθελα.
The nucleus for international promotion is one abbreviated word: celebs. Stars of all ranks and all creeds. Movie stars, rock stars, sports stars, wannabe stars, seen or unseen, visible or semi-invisible. Usually surrounded by bodyguards, and not at all bothered by hordes of paparazzi and autograph hunters. These slices of life lead to an obvious question. What about the Mekonians, the locals, the natives, the islanders? How do they feel about this annual tourist invasion? Is it really just about the money? One could say that yes, the locals have always been interested in money. Who isn't? So maybe they stood by, seemingly indifferent to the frequent, disturbing idiosyncrasies of their customers, the tourists. But the locals were, and still are, genuinely hospitable, saying thank you with a warm smile as you pay just $5 for your cup of coffee. Once the colorful crowds have departed, the understaffed and overworked island begins the process of cleansing and recharging itself. The tiny airport, now empty and silent, served 1 million passengers in just 6 months. Currently in hibernation, it prepares for next season's onslaught of tourists. The imported workforce, also known as illegal aliens. After a summer in hiding, they're out looking for a job. This is The Circle, the place where contractors shop for laborers. The pay for a long, hard day's work is $35. Some will be picked up. The rest will wait until the sun is up and then return to hiding from the authorities, who, frankly, my dears, don't give a damn. October comes, and from the web cameras, you can see that the sunset ritual by the windmills is still alive, albeit the crowds are smaller and the skies hazier. Then, winter will bring chills, empty alleys, shut windows, barricaded stores, wave-drenched boardwalks, high winds, deserted beaches, calmer days, lonely nights. The healing period when the island once again surrenders itself to the local inhabitants, at least those who haven't already left for Miami, Gstaad, or the Virgin Islands, where they usually go to spend their profits. The island returns to its annual cycle of self-cleansing and recuperation, a prolonged beauty sleep in preparation for an even wilder summer to come. The places we fall in love with are living organisms. They have souls. Here, it's the collective souls of the people, paired with the spirit of the land, the lust of the light, the force of the wind, the purity of the colors, the music of the sea. Mykonos, in its absurd equation of paradoxical complexity and pure simplicity, does have a soul, and it doesn't have to be sought. It will inevitably seek and find you. The island of Mykonos in the wintertime. Delicious, spectacular, void of loud human presence, deafening quiet, romantic, inviting, poetic. Mykonos is like a rare, precious diamond. No matter how perfect, it will always be under a magnifying glass, and everyone will be looking for flaws.